أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكرى وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذوا من دونه آلهة يردن الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون. بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها هبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون. وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومطعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون. وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون. وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وظللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون. واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون. أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. سورة الفاتحة.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصار أنه قال عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: وعليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة إيتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلعلع كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جده يا رسول الله، أتعزن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي، ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي، ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جده، السلام عليك يا من اختار الله، أتعزن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي، ويا شافع أمتي قد عزنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة، إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، حاك ومع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتعزن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد عزنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتعزن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد عزنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء، أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومع بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يعلمني ما يعلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا هرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات، إني ما خلقت سماعا مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيعة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال العمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتعزن لي أن أحبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط العمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتهية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماعا مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيعة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تعزن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء، فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله حمه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمنا، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. سورة فاتحة.
Sheikh Bilal, respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. City Management would like to inform all our community members of the next general body meeting planned for Saturday, March 4th. a date change because of a youth event that is taking place. It is extremely important that all our community members and their family members, young and old, to all attend, as the management team along with the trustees will be presenting our future plans for a center here as well as Al-Husseini Madrasa and a property in Jericho. Tonight's Surah Yasin was sponsored for the Ithal Thawab for the following marhumeens that are displayed on the screen. Al-Fatiha. Upcoming programs: on Tuesday, January 24th, we will be commemorating the wafat of Imam Ali al-Naqi alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The program will begin at 8:15 p.m. with Surah Yasin. On Thursday, January 26th, we will have a regular Thursday program, but also the Amal of Laylatul Raghaib. The program will begin at 8 a.m. at 8 p.m. with Amal followed by Isha prayers. And then the regular Thursday program. Mu'mineen are requested to pray Maghrib Salat at home before coming to the center for the Amal. Lastly, let us recite the ayah of Amma Yujibu 5 times for all those who are sick here and around the world. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibu al-mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Please recite aloud salawat as we call up Sheikh Bilal. Wa Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
رحم الله من يقرأ سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما وليكم الله والرسوله والذين آمنوا الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويأتون الزكاة وهم راكعون. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Your second salawat for love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And your loudest salawat is congratulations to the Imam of our time, Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, أسعد الله أيامنا وأيامكم بولادة إمام al-Baqir عليه السلام. The ayah of Wilaya, which in Surah Ma'idah is verse number 55, are the reference of the verse, which is one of the easier ones to remember, 5:55, 5th chapter, 55th verse. It is known as the ayah of Wilaya because it is the ayah in which the authority of Allah is expanded to include the concept of Wilaya being spent and given to others than Allah Himself. Allah presents in this verse, إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah is your wali. Now, the term wali can mean friend, and it can also mean your guardian, the one who has authority over you. The term wali and wilaya is still used today and is used as a description, for example, in understanding that the authority one has over another. For example, every child that is born has a wali and a guardian, that until that child becomes mature, there is someone who has the right to dispense with his properties, protect his properties, to utilize his properties, preserve his properties, and further the interests of that child until they become mature and able to handle those matters themselves. In Islam, when a child is born, the one who immediately has wilaya over him is two people. And those two people maintain wilaya over him throughout his entire life until they mature. Those two people are the father and the paternal grandfather. Meaning your father had, and inshallah still has, complete authority over you. He can do with you whatever he likes. There's even a statement of our Holy Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that a man came to our Holy Prophet and said to him that my father tries to take my money away from me. Man is complaining. Rasulullah said, you and your property both belong to your father. What is he taking away from you? Frightening for some of the children, but for the adults, they're enjoying this. It's okay. You can enjoy it. The concept of this wilaya and authority extends over the aspect that, for example, the father and the grandfather can even have the nikah recited on behalf of a young man. There's even a debate and there's a discussion in fiqh that a son gives the permission to his father to have his nikah recited and his grandfather. They both have wilaya. If they both get nikah recited with different people for the son, come home and say, hey, we got you married, which one sticks? First argument that a young student that was studying with us said, why can't you keep both? Can't keep both. There's an entire discussion of fiqh of the extent of this wilaya and authority. So yes, one interpretation of the meaning of the term wilaya, wali is a friend. But the overwhelming use in Islamic doctrine as well as theology is wilaya is one who has guardianship and authority over you. And Allah is telling us, إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ اللَّهِ, that the one who has the right to spend from you and has authority over you and can dictate to you and can control you and motivate you is me, Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, who is the one who has complete authority over you. This is understood when, for example, we look at the ahkam of Islam. We don't look at what I want to do. We look at what Allah demands from us because He has more authority over us than we have over ourselves. I may not want to do an action, but if Allah commands me to do it, Allah has the authority over me. Allah continues this verse by expanding the wilaya and saying, إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ, and His Prophet has authority and guardianship over you. The beauty of the structure of this sentence is to show that Allah's guardianship, when He attaches the guardianship of the Prophet, He does it by harf al-atf, wow. This wow, in using the explanation and expansion of meaning, in English we simply use the term and. The term and doesn't give us much of a definition. Just says and. The extent of and could be that it encompasses the same in the entirety or it doesn't. But in the Arabic language, the use of this wow shows that the entirety of the wilaya of Allah is given in its entirety to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is why even in Surah Ahzab is the verse in which Allah explains and says that certainly the Prophet has more authority over you than you have over yourselves. It's an explanation to show that Allah has given His wilaya and authority to Rasulullah, and that Rasulullah can dispense with the believers and the mu'mineen however He chooses. He has complete authority over them. And if He commands them to stand, they have no right to say, I want to sit. That authority is completely passed from one to the next. Allah continues this verse, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and those that have faith. Allah explains and says that the authority of Allah in His entirety of guardianship over you is passed to Rasulullah. And it is passed to those that Allah described as the ones who have faith. And Allah elaborates further. Who are these that have faith? How do you know who I mean by this? الَّذِينَ, those, يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ, that stand up to perform prayers. وَيَعْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ, and in their prayers they give zakat. وَهُمْ رَاقِعُونَ, and at the time of giving zakat they are in a position of ruku. This explanation of who it is that Allah has given His wilayah to encompasses in its entirety all of the Ahlul Bayt, but in express format it encompasses Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. The reason this is an important discussion, there are many places in the Quran by which we can define and prove that there is divine authority that Allah has conferred. That divine authority, not man-given authority, but the authority of Allah, that Allah has now given the authority to be expressed by an individual. And these verses of discussion tell us and prompt us that there is divine authority on this earth that possesses the authority of Allah in its entirety. This is one of the explanations of why we believe in Imams, that this sense of authority has to have a continuation, and that we must believe that this authority is perfected in an individual. Which is why the companion to this verse, one of the companions to this verse, is the ayah of Tathir. إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. These two verses are companions. Why? From one aspect, we know that the entirety of divine authority is transferred into an individual. The verse of Tathir 33:33 explains to us the attribute of the one who possesses divine authority. That the one who possesses divine authority, Allah has described that certainly I have wanted to purify you a thorough purification, O Ahlul Bayt. That if there is a representation of divine authority on this earth, he will be one who is pure and he is from the Ahlul Bayt. Both of these attributes have to be present. The reason that this conversation is relevant, and this is an introduction to the conversation of how do we prove that the Imam that we believe in is a legitimate Imam. How do we prove that our choosing of the A'imma alayhimus salam wasn't after the fact? It was always known. And it's not that we guessed through history and we got lucky guessing at these 12 Imams and others got the idea wrong of guessing at the Imams that they chose. No. Each of us needs to, in the eyes of Allah, be able to defend why we submitted to the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt and why we accepted them as the authority over us, and why no one else can have that authority, and why the Imam has complete authority over us, that he can do with us whatever he wants. The completion of the authority of the Imam is proven by this verse of wilayah. That in the verse of wilayah, whatever authority Allah holds over His creation, by the use of the structure of the Quran and the grammar of the language of the Arabic, we know that Allah gave the entirety of His wilayah to the Holy Prophet, and gave the entirety of that wilayah to Amir al-Mu'mineen, and from Amir al-Mu'mineen to his sons, the pure A'imma alayhimus salam, the last of whom is Sahibul Asri wa Zaman, Ajjallallahu ta'ala. This consequential responsibility is something that, for example, even in our grave we'll be asked about. Who is your Imam? Why do you believe in him to be your Imam? What's made him your Imam? And if you don't understand this concept, when someone questions you in your most difficult of situations, you won't be able to answer. You won't be able to say who I believe in and why, if I've never thought about the subject. The idea of the position of divine authority and the proof of the divine authority is one of the conversations that brings us back to the time of our fifth Imam, Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir alayhi salam. The life of our fifth Imam is one where we see the initial breaks between people having a hard time understanding the role of imamat and where authority goes. Our fifth Imam, when we look at his life, he begins his life, the first 3 years of his life are with his grandfather Imam Hussein. Then the next 38 years or 35 years of his life are under his father Imam Zainul Abidin. And then the final approximately 20 years are spent as the Imam of the time. Imam al-Baqir had a brother known as Zayd ibn Ali. And a question arose, and one of the first times a question arose about where does Imamat go? And some of the people said that it goes to the brother of Imam al-Baqir, Zayd, and not to Imam al-Baqir. The explanation of this was that they said, we saw Imam Hussein stand up and fight, and he was someone who refused to accept the governance of an oppressor. Therefore, if there is from the scions of the Prophet someone who stands up against aggression and against oppression of the unjust rulership, then they must have the authority of imamat, because we have seen standing up against oppression the attribute of Imam Hussein. Therefore, whoever comes after him must have this attribute. And the concept of Zaydism and a split away from the 12 Shia ideology began at this point in time. Which is why in the life of the Imam we see explanations and definitions as well as proofs that were uniquely presented to help preserve the concept of Imamat. Up until now, take a look and see. Imam Ali was directly appointed by the Holy Prophet. The event of Ghadir took place, and those who wanted to accept it and knew the understanding of authority accepted it clearly. The authority of Imam Hassan was expressly appointed by Imam Ali. Imam Ali's authority was stolen by the Banu Umayyah, but the Shia knew that he was the divinely appointed authority. Accepted. Imam Hassan, upon his shahadat, appointed his brother, the other son of the Holy Prophet. Was well known and understood he has complete authority over everyone. The Shia continued on the same path. No separation. Imam Hussein only had one son who lived through the event of Karbala. There are even narrations that talk about there is one son of Imam Hussein that was actually born on the day of Ashura and killed in the field of Ashura as well too. So there's a discussion as well that's a very lengthy conversation about what historical facts present themselves, who the mother was and the events that took place. But of all of the sons of Imam Hussein, only one survived. So the question of imamat at this time, though some people broke it into whether it would be Imam Zainul Abidin, the son of Imam Hussein, and others argue that maybe it is another son of Imam Ali. But when they look at the factual pages of history, those who followed Muhammad Hanafiya, who was the son of Imam Ali, Muhammad Hanafiya was not connected directly to Rasulullah, the way Imam Zainul Abidin was connected to Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. Which is why the patronage of Imam Zainul Abidin, coming from Imam Hussein, who came from Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima, demonstrated to those who could intellectually understand the superiority of Imam Zainul Abidin over Muhammad Hanafiya, and the question of authority of Muhammad Hanafiya is a debate in history, not something that has a practical thamara, a practical fruit that today we see people who followed Muhammad Hanafiya instead of Imam Zainul Abidin. But at the shahadat of Imam Zainul Abidin, we saw that now people split. They went into the direction of some following Zayd ibn Ali and others following Imam al-Baqir. So at this point in time, it was important to understand, how do we determine and know who is the Imam of the time? How do we clearly understand the attributes such that there is no doubt? Today, if we looked back at the pages of history and had to defend our answer of why we followed Imam al-Baqir and not Hazrat Zayd ibn Ali, could we? Or would we simply say that, oh, well, that's what our parents did, so that's what we did? And there are a variety of answers that give us the explanation of how we know where the authority of Allah continued on this earth, and without a shadow of a doubt, no one should doubt the fact that Imam al-Baqir is the fifth of the A'immah alayhim as-salam and the seventh of the Ma'sumin alayhim al-afdal as-salatu was-salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We'll mention two, for the sake of brevity, as well as the entirety of the discussion can be clearly encompassed in two of these arguments. The first of these points at an event in history that is initiated by Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari. Jabir was a companion of our Holy Prophet and one who was entitled to the secrets of Ahlul Bayt. The hadith qissa that we began our session with today is narrated to us by Jabir. Jabir was that companion who also introduced us to Ziyarat of Arba'in and was the first of the companions who visited the grave of Imam Hussein. On the Wiladat of Sayyidah Zahra, we even narrated one of the narrations that Jabir gave us about the azamat and fadilat of the status of Sayyidah Zahra. Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari is not a normal person that we can take his word lightly. Rather, as we give importance to many of his statements, so is the proofs of the authority of the imamat of Imam al-Baqir given to us by Jabir. Our sixth Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. If you do nothing else tonight, we will definitely do a few salawat, so that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. And today, actually, alhamdulillah, there were sightings of the moon around the country. Tonight is definitely the first night of Rajab, inshallah. So my congratulations to you on the month of Rajab al-Murajab. And inshallah, we're beginning it with something good, so that's a good thing. Imam al-Sadiq narrated that Jabir had been given a trust by the Holy Prophet. And Jabir had been told that he would have a very long life, and that in his life he would meet the sons of the Prophet, and that he is to give the salam of the son of the Prophet to his son. In this narration, it said that Jabir would sit by the pulpit of the Prophet, Masjid al-Nabawi, and he would wear a black turban and call out, "Ayna baqiru ilmin nabiyyin, ayna baqiru ilmin nabiyyin." And the people would say, Jabir has gone crazy. Jabir was an old man who was blind. But he would sit and call out in his blindness, "Where is Baqiru ilmin nabiyyin, where is Baqiru ilmin?" No one had been given that title before. They had never seen anyone with this title. So they would wonder, who is Jabir calling? Why is he calling out like this? What is this reason that he behaves like this? Until it was that the son of Imam Zainul Abidin, Imam Muhammad, entered into the masjid and was the one that Jabir said, from the sounds of his footsteps, I hear the sounds of the footsteps of Rasulullah. From his smell, I smell the ornamentation and the beautiful smell of Rasulullah. And he said, this is the one that I have been looking for. And he announced to the people that this is the one who Rasulullah told me is his grandson, who is named Muhammad the way Rasulullah was named, and is known as al-Baqir ilmin nabiyyin. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The explanation here was that Jabir was saying that the Holy Prophet, before he left this world, announced who the divine authority on this earth would be after Imam Zainul Abidin, and sent his salam upon his son, Muhammad al-Baqir, who would be authority of Allah on this earth. So therefore, we saw that the appointment of Imam al-Baqir was not a subjective issue, but rather one that Rasulullah had announced before Rasulullah left this world. So there is no debate for us of who is the Imam. The same way that we know the authenticity of Hadith Kisa, we know the authenticity of the Imamat of Imam al-Baqir from the same person saying that Rasulullah indicated that I would not leave this world until I presented the salam of Rasulullah to his son al-Baqir. Now, this was one of the authentic proofs that we had. Even further than this, that the authentication, Imam al-Baqir continues and has Jabir recite the names of the next 7 Imams for the people of the time as well, so that there is no question or doubt where the silsila of Imamat will go all the way through to the 12 Imams. We didn't come up with this after the fact. The narrations have taught us this long before. There are other narrations by Jabir as well too, that when he saw the tablet in the possession of Bibi Fatima, on it he saw the name of each of the Imams, and not just the names of the Imams, but the names of the mothers of each of the Imams as well. We have these narrations, they are presented before us. So one of the first ways that we say that when we believe in an Imam, it's because we have seen the authentic narrations coming from Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt, telling us and teaching us about each of these personalities, so that there is no doubt in history where the conditions of Imamat are met and who is the authority over us. We were told who these Imams were before even the Imam was present on this earth. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This aspect, one of the things that we know is that Imam al-Baqir was given the title Baqiru ilmin nabiyyin. Baqiru ilmin nabiyyin. Baqir is the one who splits open. And the explanation of this title that was given to our 5th Imam by the Holy Prophet was the title that means the one who splits open the knowledge of the Anbiya. Now the explanation of what does it mean to split open the knowledge of the Anbiya? is to say that not only did Imam al-Baqir know everything that the Anbiya presented and had taught, but he understood each of the meanings and how to extrapolate and explain each of these concepts. When it came to the process of, for example, proving his knowledge of the Anbiya, one of the people of the time asked, "O grandson of the Prophet, did the Holy Prophet inherit all of the knowledge of the Anbiya?" And Imam al-Baqir replied, "Yes, he did." They said, "Then, are you the inheritor of the Prophet?" He said, "Yes, I am." They said, "Then do you possess all of the knowledge of the Anbiya?" He says, "I do." He says, "Then do you have the ability to cure the blind, raise the dead, heal the leper?" Imam al-Baqir, near him was sitting a man who was blind, put his hand over the eyes of the blind man, and the blind man for the first time in his life could see with his own eyes. And Imam al-Baqir said, "Certainly we are the inheritors of all of the knowledge of the Anbiya." Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad. The example the Imam uses, instead of just making the claim that I have the knowledge of the Anbiya and the abilities of the Anbiya, the Imam demonstrated through a miracle that if you have associated an attribute that a prophet could perform by the permission of Allah, then we, the A'imma, have the ability to perform such miracles as well too. But the true explanation of the definition of the term of what it means to be Baqiru ilm al-Nabiyyin was to explain the meaning and the depths of this knowledge. To understand something, the relationship of the Khulafa in the time of Imam al-Baqir, that the Banu Umayyah had been very busy, that after the Waqia of Karbala, they were internally facing a great deal of strife, and people were unhappy. One of the things that you do when people are unhappy inside of your nation, you focus outside. You go to war in other places, which is exactly what the Banu Umayyah did. Was they started international conquests around the globe to go bring in different money, to create another enemy outside that people are focused on, as opposed to looking at the bad things that we've done. I'm not that bad, these people outside, the Romans are worse, the Fulan are worse, let's go fight them, let's go conquer their lands. And the Banu Umayyah kept people busy in these affairs. The consequence of this, that they stopped paying attention to the people of Medina. And this allowed the A'imma alayhimus salam to start the process of teaching and propagating. And Imam al-Baqir had started the process of establishing schools in the city of Medina where they would teach the religion of Islam. The perfection and peak of this, as the downfall of the Banu Umayyah took place, was in the time of our 6th Imam. But our 5th Imam started this process to such an extent that it said that in the life of the 5th Imam, over 400 books of hadith from the Holy Prophet were taught and introduced into society to bring people back to the example of our Holy Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Imam al-Baqir, why he was given that title and people accepted the title that he is Baqiru ilm al-Nabiyyin, that he is the one who splits open the knowledge of the Anbiya, is that the Imam didn't just give them the narrations of the Holy Prophet. And the beauty of the authority of the Imam was such that when he would give them the narrations of the Holy Prophet, he didn't say, "I heard from so and so." There was no middleman between Imam al-Baqir and the Holy Prophet. You understand that that's not supposed to be possible, because the Imam never saw the Holy Prophet. He wasn't alive during the life of the Holy Prophet. But the Imam, because of the mu'jiza of his imamat, had that knowledge that whatever the Prophet had taught, he could directly teach the people that item. But he not only taught them what it was, he explained to them what it was. Shall I give you an example? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A man came to our Imam and asked him, what does it mean, the anger of Allah? What does it mean when Allah says that He is angry? Now understand the fundamental of why this is an important question. A human being also possesses an attribute called anger. Anger can be a selfish expression of how I feel, and I can be more angry at someone and less angry at someone. The same person, or two people, can perform the same action. Say one is my son, he goes and he hits a stranger. Two is another young man, goes and hits a stranger. I can be more angry with one of them and less angry with another. I can say that, oh, my son, I'll be less angry with him. But another one I can be more angry with. Oh, bil'aks, I can be more angry with my son. You're my son, you should know better than to hit a stranger. and less angry with the other one that why did you hit? Meaning that anger within itself can be a subjective and emotional reaction, an existence. It is an emotion. It has varying degrees. It can be a little, it can be a lot, it can be sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. When Allah expresses that He has anger, is His anger the same as a human being? That it is an emotional reaction? That Allah possesses emotion? That Allah behaves in this way? The question that what does it mean when Allah gets angry is not such a simple question, because it is asking about the divine attributes and how to understand approaching Allah. Does Allah behave like a human being? Does He not? Imam al-Baqir breaks this down and explains that yes, we know Allah has anger, but now he explains how to understand. This is what it means to split open the knowledge of the Anbiya. The Anbiya taught Allah can be angry. Imam al-Baqir explains what it means when we say Allah is angry. He explains, he says, the anger of Allah is His punishment. Allah does not feel emotion like people feel, and does not express anger the way we people can be emotional and express anger. But rather, when Allah says that He has the ability to have ghadab and anger, it is that Allah sends down His punishment with justice to those who have earned it, not to anyone whom He emotionally may dislike. Allah does not possess emotion. This is one of the explanations of when we call Him Baqiru ilm al-Nabiyin. He didn't just teach the statement, Allah has anger. He explained how do we differentiate that anger from the human emotion of anger. That Allah's attributes are different than the attribute that can be given to a human being. That to know Allah is to know that in Him, though we may say that He possesses the attribute of anger, it is not anything like that which you and I possess. Because what you and I possess can sometimes be unjust. I can be angry for a personal reason though the person doesn't deserve it. I can be more angry with someone though they deserve less. I can be less angry with someone though they deserve more. But Allah does not base His relationship off of emotion. He bases it off of His justice, and therefore what is His punishment that He has dictated is what is explained to be the anger of Allah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In the life of our fifth Imam, before we go on to the second proof, there are a variety of different of the khulafa and dealings with the khulafa. One of the expressions of the Imam and understanding of the Imam is that the Imam does not withhold his wisdom and knowledge because of the attributes of himself. Let me explain what that means. You guys are okay? I'm going to take another 10-15 minutes if nobody complains. If you go to sleep, then that's it. It's over now. I can finish now. All right? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Aimma alayhim as-salam, when they teach, they don't teach because of their personal interest or their own personal desire or hatred. They teach based upon the capacity of the one who is listening. They do goodness based upon the need of the society and of the time, and they do not hold back their hand of justice because they don't want to. One of the clear explanations of this in the life of our fifth Imam was the relationship with the Khulafa of Banu Umayyah. The Khulafa of Banu Umayyah are the ones who killed the grandfather of Imam al-Baqir. Imam al-Baqir was present in the field of Karbala. Many of the narrations of the Masa'ib of Imam Hussein that we have in what happened to them in Kufa and in Sham, and some of the narrations of the speeches given in Kufa and Sham, rely on the chain of narrations to Imam al-Baqir. Meaning Imam al-Baqir experienced the event of Karbala at the age of 3. Imam al-Baqir defended his father against Yazid in the court of Sham. Authentic narrations. But when the Banu Umayyah needed assistance, Imam al-Baqir didn't hold back his assistance. In the time of the Khalifa Walid ibn Abdul Malik, which is at the start, his Khilafat is the start of the Imamat of Imam al-Baqir. A condition happened that Walid got into a fight with the Roman Byzantine Empire. The Khalifa was fighting with the Byzantine Empire. Now the narration of what the fight was, there is one description that says that the Muslim empire, the Banu Umayyah's empire of Islam, had no currency of its own, and relied on Roman coin and currency. The Roman coin and currency that was being printed, Walid commented to the Roman emperor and said, "We don't like the words on this currency, change it." And the Byzantine emperor said, "You dare challenge me and tell me what to put on my coins? I'll put on there whatever I want." And Walid disagreed and became angry. And the Byzantine emperor turned around and said that if you're going to try and tell me what to do, I'm going to put insulting words about your prophet on the coins. Now Walid became cornered. And this was a form of economic terrorism, an attack. That the whole Muslim empire that was using Roman coin, that now if the Roman coins insulted the prophet, what would the Muslims do? Refuse to use the coins and run out of currency and the entire system would be overthrown? Or would they have to subject themselves to the Byzantine Empire? And whatever the Byzantines wanted, they would have to submit to. In this situation, Walid collected a group of advisors and said, what do we do? Do we forego this argument? Do we change this argument? How do we behave? One of his advisors recommended and said, call Imam al-Baqir from Medina for a solution to this problem. And when Imam al-Baqir was called from Medina, he proposed that the Muslim empire print the first coins of the Muslim empire at this time. The 5th century coins that are made, 5th century or 6th century coins that are made in the Khilafat of this Walid ibn Abdul Malik, the first coins. And Imam al-Baqir explained on one side, write La ilaha illallah, and on the other side, write Muhammadar Rasulullah. As well as he explained the weights by which these coins should be made, the currency conversion by which they should be made, and made the Islamic empire independent of Roman coin, which was done by the hand of our 5th Imam. If we were to take a look at that, the Imam is someone who subjectively or uses his own interest to share knowledge and information, why would the Imam protect the Khilafat of the Banu Umayyah? But the Imam, when he approaches knowledge and discussion, doesn't do it with his self-interest. He does it with the interest of the preservation of Islam. The harm that would have come to Islam and Muslimin by the toppling of the system of governance, by the loss of a system of currency, would have been more harmful to the people. Therefore, the Imam does not look at his self-interest. He looks at what the need of Islam is and preserves Islam even in that situation. If we look at this example and we turn back to the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, we understand the silence of Imam Ali for 25 years when his right was stolen. When Imam Ali possessed Khilafat, he possessed divine authority. Why did he let someone sit in his seat in government? Why did he let them take that authority? And we find that Imam Ali's behavior in the situation, much like Imam al-Baqir, was not his looking at self-interest. It was his looking at the preservation of Islam. That it was possible to preserve Islam and the teachings of Rasulullah. So even if his right was violated, he allowed it to occur so that Islam would persist. The same way Imam al-Baqir is demonstrating the same principle. That though for him, it is a difficult thing to assist the one who has oppressed you, to assist the one who has abused you, who has killed your family. But if by behaving in this way it preserves the religion of Islam, then it is more important that Islam persists. It's one of the examples that we possess, that when we do work for Islam, and when we have the opportunity to do a good deed, look and see, is that good deed reflective of the values of Islam, or is it reflective of my needs and desires? Especially when it comes to serving in our communities. It happens that something may be a disgrace for me. It may be difficult for me to bear. But if it serves the cause of Islam, then this is the teachings and the attributes of Ahlul Bayt that we possess. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I actually have a variety of other stories about Imam al-Baqir, but for the sake of brevity, we'll go back to our topic of discussion that talks about how do we know who is the divine proof of Allah on this earth. From the one aspect we said in the case of Imam al-Baqir, it was by the explanation of the hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari. The second aspect is the A'immah themselves explained what are the attributes of an Imam, such that if you become questioning of who is the Imam on this earth, or you don't know, you will find in him the perfection of these attributes, and then you will know who the Imam is before you. The first of these narrations comes from our fifth Imam al-Baqir himself, when people asked, how is it that we shall recognize an Imam on this earth? And from Kulayni, the narration comes to us from our fifth Imam, where he enumerates the characteristics of the divine authority of Allah on this earth. He explains, he says, the Imam is not defined and explained when he announces his Imamat. He is the Imam from the moment of his birth. So he enumerates the attributes of an Imam from the moment of his birth. He says the Imam is pure from birth and is born naturally circumcised. Immediately after his birth, the Imam would put his hands on the ground and loudly utter the witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi is his prophet. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There are narrations that explain the Imam speaks from the womb before he is born, that the Imam is completely pure at the moment of his birth, that the nur of the Imam encompasses the earth at the moment of his birth, that his birth is not seen and witnessed by others. All they see is the light of the Imam when he is born. The Imam continued, he says, the eyes of the heart of the Imam never go to sleep. This is explained by saying that it may be that one closes their eyes, and we may close our eyes, but the consequence is that we are ignorant of what is going on around us when we enter a state of sleep. The Imam is never ignorant of what goes on around him, even if he is in a state of sleep. The Imam continues, the Imam will never have wet dreams. The Imam never yawns. The Imam can see things at his back as well as the things at his front without requiring his face to turn around. This was one of the attributes of our Holy Prophet. In one of the famous narrations about Habib ibn Madahir, it said that our Prophet was walking with Madahir, the father of Habib, and behind Rasulullah was walking Imam Hussein. And behind Imam Hussein was walking the son of Mazahir, Habib. Rasulullah, walking with Mazahir, immediately turns around, goes to Habib and kisses him. Mazahir, seeing the Prophet break his communication and turn around and approach his son, says, Ya Rasulullah, did my son do something wrong? And Rasulullah replies, no. O Mazahir, we the Anbiya, we the Ahlul Bayt can see in front of us the same as we can see behind us without turning around. O Mazahir, I saw your son perform an action beloved to me, so I wanted to kiss him and hold him. He said, Ya Rasulullah, what did my son do? Rasulullah explains the relationship of this Mazahir to Imam Hussein. He says, O Mazahir, your Habib would not walk with my Hussein but walk behind him. And as my Hussein would walk, your Habib would lift the dirt from under the feet of my Hussein and kiss it to his eyes and return it to the earth. O Mazahir, this Habib is beloved to me. This attribute is one that the A'immah themselves also possess, as Imam Baqir explains. Imam Baqir explains the same as our father Rasulullah. We, the A'immah, possess the attribute that we see behind us the same way that we see in front of us. There is not something that can be hidden from us in this way. The Prophet's armor of chainmail fits the Imam's exactly. This statement of the Imam was one of the authentic proofs that not only does the Imam possess the armor and the inheritance of the Anbiya, but that the armor of Rasulullah fits the Imam the way it was made for the Imam. This statement within itself was one of the secrets by which the Shia would recognize the Imam. In the time of our seventh Imam, Musa Kazim alayhi salam, the danger to the Imam was great. Harun was trying to kill the Imam, to such an extent that Imam Jafar as-Sadiq couldn't even announce who the next Imam will be. When the companions would come and secretly try to find out where Imamat will go, the Imam couldn't say, this is the next Imam. Which is why we see the split after Imam Sadiq as well too into different sects. The only thing that the Imam could explain, and the only ones who understood it, were the Shia who had been attached to his father
and those who had learned from the example of the Ahl al-Bayt, is that Imam Ja'far Sadiq, to teach the Shia who the next Imam would be, he would put his hand on the shoulder of Imam Musa Kazim and say, the armor of Rasulullah has fit this son of mine. And upon saying this, the Shia would immediately understand that the only one who can wear the armor of Rasulullah and it fits him as if it was made for him was none other than the next one who would be the Imam of the time. So this was one of the authentic proofs that we possess. One of the other items that we knew about the attributes of the Aimma alayhimus salam, that they possess all of the tabarrukat of the Anbiya before them. The shirt of Nabi Yusuf, the staff of Nabi Musa, the tabut of Nabi Musa and of the Bani Israel. All of the possessions of the previous Anbiya would be in the possession of the Imam of the time. One of the ways that we can recognize the Imam of our time is that he too will possess these tabarrukat. He will possess the banner of the Holy Prophet. He will possess the sword of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He will possess the book of Bibi Fatima. He will possess the Quran of Amir al-Mu'mineen, in which includes the tafsir and the ta'wil of everything that has been revealed from Allah to us. All of these will be the ways by which we will be able to identify the physical possessions that the Imam has to know who is the authority of Allah on this earth. The final point amongst these that Imam al-Baqir makes is that the authority of Allah on this earth, the Imam of Allah on this earth, is the one who has the ability to converse with the malaika and the angels. This within itself is a very interesting point. Is everybody okay? Yes. 5 more minutes. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. No human being possesses the ability to communicate with the malaika except those that are divinely appointed. Amongst the Anbiya, even they are not uniform in this attribute. The one who has the closest relationship to the spectrum of the angels is the Rasul. The Rasul, the messenger of Allah, we know that there are very few of these. They can not only listen to the angels, but they can see the angels. And they can talk to them and see them. Which is why our Holy Prophet would describe seeing Jibreel and would describe seeing the other angels who would come to him. The Anbiya and the Nabi of Allah can only hear the angels, they can't see them. And it was Imam al-Baqir who explained as well the attribute that we, the Aimma alayhimus salam, are like the Anbiya in that we can hear the angels, but we cannot see them. So one of the attributes of an Imam is that he has the ability to listen to the angels and to tell us what the angels are saying as well too, as well as to communicate with the angels, much in the same way that the Anbiya possess this attribute. The reason that these conversations become important is that the establishment from the time of Imam al-Baqir, after him, the condition upon the Shia gets worse. The Imam al-Baqir is the last one who spends the entirety of his life during the dawr of the Banu Umayyah, and during the weakness of their time. Amongst some of the Banu Umayyah, there were even some reasonable khulafa, maybe even good you could say. One, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, our 5th Imam, spent time during 5 of the Banu Umayyah. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was a Khalifa who only was a Khalifa for 2.5 years, but in this 2.5 years, he actually showed a great deal of love and respect for Ahl al-Bayt. Until the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, it was the habit that every pulpit in the religion of Islam would begin their speeches by the cursing of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz in the life of Imam al-Baqir was the one who stopped this practice and insisted and made sure that no pulpit continued the process of cursing Imam Ali from the Jummah khutbah, and instead instituted amongst the Ahl Sunnah the verse that we recite in Jummah khutbah as well too, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ. The other thing that Umar ibn Abdul Aziz did was he returned the property of Fadak to Imam al-Baqir. This returning of the property of Fadak, many historians narrate, is what opened the hands of Imam al-Baqir to establish the schools in the city of Medina by the wealth of Fadak, by their wealth, to continuing the teaching of Islam that eventually was taken over by our 6th Imam. But this period was a very short period in the life of Imam al-Baqir, after which the abuse of the Aimma continued under the hands of Hisham and Walid ibn Abdul Malik, until the lineage of the Banu Umayyah ended and Imam Our Imam was killed in the authority under Hisham ibn Abdul Malik. But the teachings of the Imam today still persist amongst us. If today we have yaqeen and certainty of how to recognize an Imam, who is the Imam, and we don't just believe in an Imam because our parents told us to. It's because the etiquette of how to understand the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt, how to understand the meanings of the words of Ahlul Bayt, was a teaching that was started by our fifth Imam, Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir alayhi salam. ندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم. 10 times we call out, Ya Allah, 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 Ya Allah. Ya Mahmud بحق محمد, Ya أعلى بحق علي, Ya فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة, Ya محسن بحق الحسن, Ya قديم الأحسان بحق الحسين. Oh Allah, entitle us to the path of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Oh Allah, by the wasila of our fifth Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, entitle us to the knowledge of Islam. Oh Allah, keep us and our families and our children on the upright religion of Islam. Ya Allah, by the right of the month of Rajab al-Murajjab, by the right of the Wiladat in this month, by the right of the Shahadat in this month, oh Allah, keep us on the firm path of Islam. Oh Allah, we have gathered here with hajat. Fulfill our hajat. Ya Allah, those amongst our families, our communities, the mu'mineen who are suffering through sickness and disease, Ya Allah, give shafa'at to the mu'mineen wherever they are. Oh Allah, those mu'mineen who are suffering through insecurity and difficulty in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Sham, and around the world, Ya Allah, give aman and security to the mu'mineen wherever they are. Oh Allah, keep our children on the upright path of Islam. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of Sahib al-Zaman and entitle us to the shafa of Abu Abdullah in dunya and akhirah. One Surah Fatiha and Surah Ikhlas with your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
أفضل الصلاة محمد وآل محمد صلوات صلوا على محمد ہے پنجم امام آج پیدا ہوئے شہ خاص و عام آج پیدا ہوئے لقب جس کا باقر محمد ہے نام وہی نیک نام آج پیدا ہوئے ہے پنجم امام آج پیدا ہوئے شہ خاص و عام آج پیدا ہوئے پدر سات اماموں کے اور خود امام وہ باقر علوم آج پیدا ہوئے ہے دادا حسین اور نانا رسول وہ معصوم پاک آج پیدا ہوئے ہے پنجم امام آج پیدا ہوئے شہ خاص و عام آج پیدا ہوئے الہی بحق ہے پنجم امام بیمار ہو جلد پاوے شفا مسافر فرے جلد میرے نبی کے پنجم امام آج پیدا ہوئے ہے پنجم امام آج پیدا ہوئے شہ خاص و عام آج پیدا ہوئے اماموں کی زیارت نصیب کر خدا ہو محتاجوں کی جلد حاجت روا دعا جو کرے گا وہ بر آئے گی وہ باقر علوم آج پیدا ہوئے ہے پنجم امام آج پیدا ہوئے شیخ سوام آج پیدا ہوئے ہے پانچونوں مل جہاں داتان احمد والی زیرا و حسن شبیر سے لے تائمہ میں زمان شبیر سے لے تائمہ میں زمان ایک ایک پہ صدا صلوات پڑھو صلوات صلوات کے اس پہ نثارے گوہر جو نبی یہ بلند صفات ہوئے صلوات زیارت امام حسین
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسين وعلى علي ابن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وعنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض توس أرض المرتضى الراز بقدر والكذا مولانا علي بن موسى الرضا كن شفينا وشفي والدينا في يوم الجزاء وفقنا الله لزيارتك يا مولا ورزقنا الله شفاعتك في الدنيا والآخرة السلام عليك وعلى أختك فاطمة المعصومة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته
اللهم صل على محمد وآله وسلم